So, chances are that you've hit your shadow work phase in your spiritual awakening because you're going through a dark night of the soul. This is a term that you may not be familiar with, but the dark night of the soul is one of the stages of a spiritual awakening. Let me tell you that you will go through this several times throughout your journey. I've gone through it repeatedly. Just know it always passes. You'll always come out better on the other side. Once you begin a spiritual awakening, you go through a period deemed the dark night of the soul. This is a period where you feel like you've been cut off from God, from the universe, from the divine, from whatever it is that you have believed in up to this point. And once you get into a spiritual awakening and you have new beliefs and new practices and so on, you will become attached to those things. And when you go through dark nights of the soul, you'll feel unattached and just cut off from them too. The more profound you feel this experience, the darker it can seem for you. Now, these can be as quick as just a few days or a week. They can last years. I've had one that's lasted almost 8 months at one point. This is such a profoundly deep experience in your process. So don't ever negate it. Okay. It's like walking through the valley of the shadow of death before you can ever get to the light to prepare your heart, mind, and your soul for your upgrade to your consciousness. It's like changing clothes. You have to take off the new clothes. Excuse me. You have to take off the old clothes before you put on the new clothes. I'm even reading from a script, y'all, and I still mess it up. How about that? You can't gain your new self without losing the old aspects of you. So when you're in a dark night of the soul, that suffering that you feel inside, that just inner turmoil, beating yourself up, etc., is for a purpose. So know that it's for a purpose. It's the destruction of the old you that will become the new golden pathway for you to walk forward. There are a ton of different schools of thought on this, and you've probably heard of a lot of them and never realized it. Birth and death, yin and yang. This is just a couple of ways of looking at this awakening process. At the core of all of it, it's something very raw, it's very primal, and it is one of the most difficult experiences that a human can go through. It feels like everything is stripped from you. You have no light, you have no clarity, you have no peace, and you feel like you're just in a tailspin. Usually this happens after a very traumatic event, and it's what kicks you into your spiritual awakening. So a lot of times it is the first thing that people deal with in the spiritual awakening. I want you to keep in mind, once again, this is just a phase. It's just a stage. You will move past it, I promise. There are ways of speeding up the process, but not without a lot of deep interpersonal work, such as shadow work. This is something that can help you move past the dark night of the soul just a little faster. But overall, just remember, it's a vital aspect of your spiritual awakening. So how do you know if you're experiencing a dark night of the soul? Here's a few different signs that you can look for in yourself and other people, etc. You feel isolated from yourself, from life, from everything around you. You feel abandoned by the universe, by God, by Allah, by the divine, or any deity or belief you had faith in previously. You feel lost. You have no idea which direction to go. You have this just deep despair and horror when you look at the world around you. Your mood is almost always kind of deep down in the gutter, and you're very introspective and melancholy. You feel this deep sense of dread continually. You will lose motivation in the things that you used to love, and you will also lose interest in most of the things that you used to love. You have this extreme exhaustion so deep in your bones that you cannot explain why or even realize where it came from. You sit and ponder the meaning of life continually. You also will feel like you don't belong on this planet anymore. You'll feel like you don't belong in your city you've lived in forever, in your house, so on. You'll look at people around you and feel just a massive disconnect. Now, this is not an all-inclusive list, and there are different aspects to the dark night of the soul that everyone will have and that you will have in going through the different ones. So I wanted to go through those a little bit so you guys would know you're not alone in that. Every time that you sit and you feel so down and disconnected, know that there are so many people going through this with you as well. I've gone through it multiple times. The deeper you go, the deeper inner work you do, the better you come out of it on the other end. That is what shadow work is for, guys, to help you come out of your dark night of the soul a much better, more well-rounded person.